Hey everybody, what's up? Let's talk about Frank and Lola. It's a film noir-inspired love story set in two of the sexiest cities in the world, Las Vegas and subsequently Paris, and it's about an incredibly talented chef, played by Michael Shannon, who meets and falls in love with a mysterious young woman who is new to the city, played by Imogen Poots. What initially starts out as a pretty cute love story ultimately turns into a dark and depressing film involving infidelity that will eventually give rise to jealousy and ultimately violence, blackmailing, and manipulation. Comparisons have been made to similarly dark character studies, noir-inspired tales, or complex psychosexual love stories helmed by such legendary authors as Michael Mann, Roman Polanski, Brian De Palma, Alfred Hitchcock, Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut, Jacques Audier's The Beat That My Heart Skipped, Francis Ford Coppola's The Conversation, and Bernardo Bertolucci's Last Tango in Paris, among others. Fortunately, the film isn't completely wearing its influences on its sleeve. It doesn't feel like another copycat or rip-off, or it's not even like a homage paid to any of those films, but it manages to take just the right amount of the basic elements of those previous films mentioned, and here I'm especially thinking like Eyes Wide Shut and Last Tango in Paris, and with some pretty excellent performances manages to treat its elements with enough care to make a cohesive and intriguing enough film, despite the fact that it never completely reaches the level of subtlety or somberness of those films, and this is probably not a film that will reach cult status anytime soon. The story is incredibly basic, even like basic to a fault, I would say. Guy gets with girl, certain events from girl's past continue to haunt her, guy gets jealous, and both of them destroy everything instead of just letting things go and letting things be. Despite how good Michael Shannon's performance is in this film, and it is very good, Michael Shannon has been killing it in 2016. He has been in a lot of movies, and he has been great in every single one of them. Now, I was more used to him being this more of kind of this brooding, maybe even sometimes scary character, but he has proven many times that he can also be a very affectionate and loving and gentle character, but just the way his character in this film is written is so very cartoonish sometimes that it's quite unbelievable. I mean, he is not incredibly bright. He seems to fall into every single trap set up for him. He even works against himself sometimes. I mean, one of the most annoying scenes in the film is when Justin Long's character, who is a colleague of Imogen Poots' character, and about who Michael Shannon is jealous because he thinks that he is hitting on his girlfriend, is offering Michael Shannon the opportunity of his career. Is that something okay to say? I mean, what chefs do, cooking food for a living, can that be considered a career? I don't know. But anyway, he is offering him the opportunity of his career, and he really needs this because he just lost his restaurant, and he is in a pretty unstable situation as far as employment is concerned. But he is just behaving like a fucking 5-year-old in this scene. I mean, hesitating to shake hands, responding in this very menacing voice. Now, it is no secret to him that she has already betrayed his trust once by this point in the film, and not by sleeping with Justin Long's character, mind you. So I was just thinking during this scene, like, why aren't you thinking about yourself a little bit? Just put your jealousy aside, a jealousy that doesn't have any basis in reality anyway, and just take this opportunity, look out for yourself a little bit. But, of course, that's what love will do to a man. He will become obsessed and possessive. And the film does a very decent job at presenting us this aspect of a relationship. The film really seems to work until it kind of doesn't. And like I said, this is mostly due to Michael Shannon conveniently falling into every single trap set up for him, and other characters existing in the film more as mere plot devices to drive the story in different directions rather than being well fleshed out characters themselves. Trying not to give too much away, basically what happens during the second half of this film is character A goes to find character B so that he can exact revenge for what B did to character C, but B tells A that C is actually lying, so A decides to exact his revenge on the deceiving character C by sleeping with character D, but then C tells A that B is actually the one who is lying, and B and D are working together. They have been plotting the whole thing from the very beginning, so A has to go back and ask D if it actually is true, because D is the only person who hasn't lied to him yet more than once until that point. Fuck me. Like I said, certain characters feel more like reasons for stuff to happen rather than fleshed out characters themselves, and the film ultimately comes to a pretty generic conclusion that doesn't really seem to have much consequence, and the very end of the film is ambiguous, and it's somehow it works, but at the same time it feels kind of uninspired. It kind of feels like ambiguousness for ambiguousness' sake, but I have to give props for the film for examining some very interesting themes, such as male domination, male obsession, jealousy, as everyone has pointed out, but I think the film is also quite successful at examining the relationship between love and lust, just how inseparable they are. Like how you can't have a romantic relationship without the sexual part, but you also can't have a sexual relationship without the emotional attachment. Now, of course, I know there are exceptions to the rule, but the norm is pretty much that one includes the other. And of course, this is pretty obvious, but the film also examines how it's almost impossible to balance the two out, how it is almost impossible to tell where the line is exactly between the two, how sometimes we can want more of one or the other, how sometimes one can overpower the other. So along with films like Eyes Wide Shut, Last Tango in Paris, and even the more recent 45 Years Later, this is a film that examines the dark side of relationships, the way people can't just find a way to say, hey, you know, the two of us, we connect, we have things in common, let's just let go of the shit that happened in our past and be together. Of course, this rarely happens, and thus we have films like this, which are impressive, like good acting, good cinematography, good music. This is mostly where the noir aesthetic comes in. It's a pretty intriguing film, but it's not really bringing anything new to the table. So thanks for watching my review, folks. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you later with other reviews. Until then, folks, take care, stay awesome, goodbye.